Welcome, my brothers and sisters. Tonight, I will tell you a story whispered in the villages of my homeland, a story of a cursed drum that no one dares to touch. Stay with me until the end, and if you crave more terrifying stories like this, don't forget to support this page. Your support keeps the fire of these ancient tales burning bright. Now gather close and let the darkness in. Our story begins with Ayaan, a young man with more curiosity than sense, returning to his late grandfather's village. The air, thick with the scent of red earth and wood smoke, felt different this time, heavier. As he sorted through his grandfather's belongings, his eyes fell upon it, a tall, slender drum, carved from a wood as dark as a starless night. Its surface was covered in symbols he didn't recognize, symbols that seemed to writhe and shift in the dim light of the hut. The village elder, a man whose skin was a roadmap of wrinkles and wisdom, saw the fascination in Ayaan's eyes. He shuffled forward, his voice a dry rasp, like leaves skittering across the ground. "Do not strike that drum, boy. It does not sing for the living. Its rhythm is a summons for those who walk in shadow." Ayaan just laughed, a nervous, dismissive sound. It was just an old drum, a relic. What harm could it do? He brushed off the elder's warning, his modern mind deaf to the ancient fear in the old man's voice. The elder simply shook his head and walked away, muttering a prayer under his breath. Ayaan was a city boy, after all. He didn't understand the things that slumbered in the heart of the land. That night, the village fell into a profound silence, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the distant call of a nightingale. Inside his grandfather's hut, alone with the flickering flame of a single lantern, Ayaan couldn't resist. The drum called to him. His fingers traced the strange carvings, feeling a coldness emanate from the wood. He told himself it was just one tap, just to hear its voice. He raised his hand and struck the taut skin. Boom. The sound was not loud, but it was unnaturally deep, a resonant thrum that seemed to vibrate not in the air, but in his very bones. It didn't just fill the hut, it felt like it spread across the entire valley, a stone dropped into a still, dark lake. Instantly, the gentle night breeze became a violent, howling wind, rattling the thatched roof. The shadows cast by the lantern didn't just flicker, they crawled, stretching and twisting into grotesque shapes on the walls. Suddenly, a frantic knocking rattled the door. "Ayaan, are you okay?" I heard something, a sound, like the earth itself groaned. It was his friend, Zuri, her voice tight with panic. Ayaan's heart hammered against his ribs. He quickly shoved the drum into a dark corner, covering it with an old blanket. "I'm fine," he called out, trying to keep his voice steady. "Just knocked something over." He lied, his throat dry. But as he looked at the dark corner where the drum was hidden, he felt a chilling certainty. He had not just made a sound. He had answered a call. The nights that followed were filled with a creeping dread. It started subtly. The children of the village, once peaceful in their sleep, now cried out with night terrors. The goats and cattle, usually calm, became frantic, breaking free from their pens and running wild into the darkness as if spooked by an unseen predator. The men would find them in the morning, huddled together and trembling. Villagers began to whisper. They spoke of cold spots in the open air, of fleeting shadows glimpsed at the edge of their vision, of disembodied whispers carried on the wind. They spoke of spirits walking among them. For Ayaan, the terror was more personal. Sleep offered no escape. His dreams were feverish and suffocating. Every night, he found himself in a clearing, surrounded by a roaring fire that gave off no heat. Around the fire, shadowy figures danced with a frantic, desperate energy. They were silhouettes, lacking faces or features, but he could feel their ancient sorrow and rage. And providing the rhythm for their ghastly dance was the deep, soul-shaking beat of a drum. His drum dot in the dream, a chorus of whispers slithered into his mind, a seductive, chilling command. Play, again, set us free. He would wake up drenched in sweat, the phantom rhythm still pulsing in his ears, his heart a frantic echo of the dream drum. Unable to bear the guilt and the growing fear, Ayaan finally sought out the elder. He found him sitting outside his hut, staring towards the distant mountains, as if he had been waiting. Ayaan confessed everything: the drum, the single beat, the nightmares. The elder listened patiently, his ancient eyes filled not with anger, but with a deep, profound sadness. When Ayaan was finished, the old man sighed. "I warned you," he said, his voice heavy. "That drum is not a mere instrument. It was carved from the heartwood of a tree struck by dark lightning. Long ago, a clan of warriors, facing total annihilation, made a pact with spirits of vengeance. They were granted unnatural strength to defend their people, but the price was their souls. When they fell in battle, their tormented spirits were trapped within the very drum that led them to war. They are bound to its silence. Whoever plays it, even once, invites them back into our world. You have not just played a drum, Ayaan. You have opened a prison." Ayaan's blood ran cold. The whispers, the dancing shadows, they were the souls of the cursed warriors. And he had awakened them. That night, the whispers were no longer confined to his dreams. They were in his hut, curling around him like smoke. And then it began. A soft, rhythmic beat. Asterisk thump thump. Thump thump. Asterisk it was coming from the corner. The drum was beating by itself. Ayaan stared, frozen in terror, as the blanket covering it slowly slid to the floor. An invisible force was playing it, and the rhythm was growing faster, more insistent. He felt a pull, an irresistible magnetism drawing him towards it. His own hands lifted, moving without his will. He was a puppet, and the spirits were 1,000 puppeteers. "No," he whimpered, but his hands reached for the drum. "Ayaan, fight it." Zuri screamed from outside the hut, her face a mask of terror pressed against the small window. She had seen the shadows writhing inside. But it was too late. As Ayaan's hands touched the drum, the shadows converged, wrapping around him like spectral chains. He screamed, a raw, agonized sound that was quickly swallowed by a chorus of other voices, the guttural cries of warriors, the hissing whispers of the damned all erupting from his own throat. His eyes, once warm and brown, became dark, empty pits. He was no longer just Ayaan. He was a vessel. The possessed Ayaan burst from the hut and sprinted towards the ancient forest, the source of the drum's wood. The elder, alerted by Zuri's screams, rallied the bravest of the villagers. "They mean to reclaim their power in the forest. We must stop them." Armed with torches and bags of sacred salts, they followed, their prayers cutting through the unnatural silence of the woods. They found Ayaan in a clearing, writhing on the ground, the drum pulsing with a malevolent light beside him. The elder began the ancient ritual of binding. The villagers formed a circle, chanting and casting lines of salt to form a prison. But the spirits fought back. A supernatural wind tore through the clearing, extinguishing torches and whipping branches like razors. The air filled with a cacophony of blood-curdling screams and furious whispers. The shadows swirled violently, lashing out at the villagers. For a moment, Ayaan's true self broke through. His eyes, wet with tears, found the elders. "I can't hold them," he cried, his voice a pained, human sob amidst the demonic chorus. "They're too strong, run." With a final monumental act of will, he lunged, not away from the drum, but towards it, shoving it into the ritual fire at the center of the circle. The drum, carved from wood that should not burn, erupted in a column of black and green flame. The shadows were sucked towards it, their screams turning from rage to agony as they were consumed. The wind died instantly. The forest fell silent. And then there was nothing but the crackling of the fire. At dawn, the village was quiet, draped in a somber peace. The elder knelt, holding Ayaan, who was exhausted and weak, but alive. He was himself again. The villagers stood in a silent circle, their faces etched with the horror of the night. In the center of the fire pit, only a pile of grey ash remained. The elder looked at the ashes, then at Ayaan, his voice a grave finality. Some music, he said, should never be played. And that, my friends, is the story of the Drum of Shadows. A tale to remind us that some doors are best left unopened, and that curiosity, when it trespasses on the sacred and the forbidden, can awaken a darkness that should never be touched. Thank you for listening to my story. Please like, share, and follow this page so we can continue to bring you more tales from the heart of Africa. Until next time, sleep well if you can.